immunity was unconstitutional. Mugabe was accused of assaulting a model, Gabriella Engels, and two others at a Johannesburg hotel in August last year. The Department of International Relations says it will study the judgment before deciding on its course of action. It suggested that the department may appeal the judgment, while lobby group AfriForum has warned that it may seek a private prosecution of Mugabe. Now, for more on this story, we joined on the line by Willie Spies, AfriForum, and the Gabriella Engels legal representative. The High Court in Johannesburg found the decision was inconsistent with the Constitution and irrational. Mr. Spies, a very good morning to you. Thank you very much indeed for your time. Just firstly, where is the ball? Is the ball in the NPA's court, or is the case still with the police at this stage?
As far as we could establish, there's a docket with the police, and there were deliberations between the police and a representative from the prosecuting authorities back in August last year. And at the stage of their deliberations, and there was actually also a court date fixed for the first appearance by Ms. Mugabe when this immunity was granted. So, the ball is with obviously the investigating as well as the prosecuting authorities, and if they should decide to carry on, then it's possible for them to carry on. Obviously, if there's an appeal against this order, which is also a possibility, then the matter will be suspended until the appeal is finalized. But for now, we can regard the matter as being in their courts now.
The issue of diplomatic immunity is interesting, isn't it? Could you help us explain diplomatic immunity as you understand it?
Diplomatic immunity has been created by international law. The Geneva Convention makes provision for that. And the purpose of that is merely to enable diplomats of countries to do their work unhindered and to ensure that they are not being charged for all kinds of minor offences and being harassed in times of tensions between countries. I believe that's probably the reason why the concept of diplomatic immunity was developed in the international law. The important thing is that immunity is something that's enjoyed by heads of state as the official representatives of state, and then the official diplomats representing a specific country. In this regard, where the argument was made that when there's immunity granted to a head of state, it should also devolve upon his spouse, that was actually the issue of debate. And our courts find that in South Africa, given our constitutional dispensation and the constitutional framework within which we operate, that is not tenable.
So when doesn't diplomatic immunity apply in terms of, say, for instance, not pertaining to this case, but in general, if we're talking about murder, if we're talking about assault?
Well, that's a second very interesting issue, and that's an issue that we pointed out to the minister back in August last year when we wrote to her first. In terms of our local legislation, the Foreign States Immunities Act, there's a very specific provision in the Act that states that immunity does not apply where a person suffered personal injury or where a person lost his life as a result of the alleged criminal conduct. Then immunity is in any event excluded. So our law is quite clear on the issue, but obviously the Department of International Relations back then decided to bend the law to a certain extent to assist their friends.
Mr. Spies, if the NPA decides for whatever reason not to take any action, what's your course of action?
Well, the Criminal Procedure Act is quite clear. There is provision for private prosecutions there. In a case like this, it is important that the victim herself needs to institute the prosecution. Ms. Engels had been represented by us all along, and we will just carry on this process on behalf of Ms. Engels, and we will ensure that she pursues a private prosecution and being represented by the private prosecutions unit led by Sherinel.
So help us understand the legal process of getting Mrs. Mugabe here to South Africa.
Yeah, well, obviously, if the MPA should carry on, then a process should start for her extradition. And there are international treaties between SADC countries dealing with the issue of extradition. South Africa is party to that. So the international treaties do exist. The procedure do exist for South Africa to ask for her extradition from Zimbabwe. And yeah, then it will be up to the authorities to deal with that. If there's a private prosecution, it may be slightly more complicated because obviously a private individual cannot necessarily step into the shoes of a state. And obviously we will have to see in which way the law can be developed to assist us in that regard. But it would be possible in any event to apply to a court to issue a warrant for her arrest. And it would be possible for us to, with a valid warrant of arrest being issued, it may be possible for us at least to ensure that she won't be able to do any shopping in Sandton.
So what's at stake here for her in terms of is she likely? Is there likelihood that she can serve any time? What sort of punitive measures are there?
Well, the charges that will be brought against her are very serious. It's not simple assault. It was assault with the intention to cause grievous bodily harm, which is a very serious offence. And there are prescribed sentences if a person is found guilty, and whichever court will look at it in future will have to consider those penalties that's being imposed in terms of our law, and will have to make a finding on that. But it's impossible to preempt it at this stage.
Willie Spies from AfriForum, thank you very much indeed for your time. Much appreciated.
Thank you. All the best. Bye-bye.
Well, Kimberley business owners have been advised to keep their shops closed as the shutdown intensifies. Parents have also been told